Welcome to the Fractured Families Podcast. I'm Charity, a dedicated parental alienation coach here to support and advocate for families navigating the challenges of high conflict divorce and custody disputes. I'm here to shed light on the struggles many families face, offering insights, strategies, and hope for those seeking justice and healing. In each episode, I'll explore real-life stories, expert advice, and practical solutions to help rebuild and strengthen the bond that holds families together. Whether you're personally affected or looking to understand more about these complex issues, you're not alone. I'm here to walk you down this path. Come join me as I navigate the complexities of family law, share inspiring journeys of resilience, and advocate for meaningful. Hi, thanks for joining the Fractured Families Podcast. This is Charity, your host. I'm meeting today with Bobby Martinez. He's a devoted father who's been struggling for many years to maintain a relationship with his son. He met his partner in 2008. They had a child, or he met his partner, and in 2008 they had a child. He'll talk a little bit about his story, how he has spent over $30,000 to continue to be part of his son's life. So Bobby, thank you for joining the Fractured Families Podcast. I look forward to hearing your story and your insights and the challenges and how the family legal system failed you and your son. So thanks for joining. Go ahead and share with us.
Thank you for having me. So my story really starts back when I moved to the Bay Area in 2001, 2002, roughly. It was a transition, my first time away from home, probably my early 20s at that time. I had met the mother of my child while I was working at a retail store back then. We developed a friendship and relationship that was ongoing for many years. She was married, had 3 other children, by 2 other fathers also. So it was kind of like a lot going on in the life at the time. There was a lot of outings and so forth, alcohol, maybe some poor choices at that time. But my son was a blessing. He came into our life in October 2008, and I all of a sudden realized there was a lot of red flags in general. She suffered from a lot of postpartum because we weren't together. There was a lot of arguments along the way. So when my son Romeo was born, I did the best to try to be the best father I could, extremely active in his life. I was in Nevada, Las Vegas at the time he was born, but I was there for the day he was born. I decided to move back 2 months after to San Jose, California, where we resided for about 2 years. At that time I moved back, we had went to court right away. So it was kind of an easy thing because I knew she needed help at the time and she wanted me to be active, which I obviously wanted to be an active father in his life. He's my only child. So everything was easy, 50-50. There was no fighting, no arguments, no nothing. So fast forward a little bit, we moved to Las Vegas, Nevada in 2000.
How old was he at that time?
He was only a few months old. Okay, so he was only a couple months old in January of 2009 when we went to court in the California court system. We end up moving to Las Vegas in 2010, where things started to get extremely challenging. There was just more arguments between me and her. It was just a really stressful situation. But Romeo at the time is probably not even a year old, maybe a year and a half. At that time, it was a challenge to move here as far as like babysitting as that is, because nobody's here of either one of our families. So I took a main role to working and also being the caregiver, for our child. So in her life choices moving forward and so forth, she started traveling a lot more. It would be a week at a time. Then it kind of interjected to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, until when he was probably 2, she would leave 30 days at a time. So I'm caring for an extremely young child, having nannies and so forth along the way, because work schedules here is very difficult. There were times where we would leave him at daycares at a casino and I would pick him up at midnight and they sleep on these little cots. It was very difficult at that time to see, but this is what we had to do at that time. It was a lot of just not seeing the same parenting styles and maybe our life choices that I didn't realize would affect him long term until years of going on. So if we move forward a little bit of the challenging times when he was young, he went through, before 6th grade, probably about 4 schools. He started having behavioral problems, very like aggressive, fighting, so forth. He was just a very active, rambunctious child, but mom was not really here during these times. It was dad. So if I look back and think about things I experienced, I would have to sit in front of the principals of these private schools that we would attend to and really justify where this is coming from. But I wouldn't say it's because mom was very absent, which I felt that I could see, which was a difficult thing for me, really explaining like what's going on with him. They try to say he had ADHD at a young age because we paid to have one of the top, psychologists test him because he just wouldn't listen and so forth. I did not medicate him at all. And I noticed over the years, he kind of grew out of it a little bit as he matured. I didn't realize until later, if you fast forward over years, that when mom was traveling and they would talk on the phone when he was old enough, well, let's just say we moved to like 6, 7, 8 years old for him, that he was already being told things in secretive behind my back. Like, oh, when I can, I'm going to get you. You're going to come with me. Tell your dad what he wants to hear. Like, I didn't realize any of this stuff because I was obviously I felt like I was being a loving father, but I couldn't just be like the best friend also. So I had to give him love, and I also had to give discipline, which was extremely challenging, obviously for a young child. Sometimes I start thinking if I was too difficult, or I try to reflect back on choices that I made as a parent. Was I the authoritarian parent? Was I pushing too much sports? Was I overbearing? And I just start thinking about these things, what could I have done differently? And we just had two different visions of parenting. I saw him as excelling when he had structure and when you kind of pushed him a little bit, because I felt he was an overachiever, but then he would just be lazy. If you let him not do anything, he's not going to do anything. It was like a lot of the video games. So at the age of 12, he went to visit for the summer in Mexico. So this is when the legal part in Nevada came up, because I had my rights from, when he's a year old, I bring it to the courts here in Nevada, which I felt didn't really go so well. I tried to be the bigger person, not really play in the mud at the time and think that things are going to smooth over, because one attorney had told me to contact the police and report him as being like kidnapped, because he wasn't. I didn't get permission for him to go out of the country for the length of time that they kept him out of the country. I chose not to do that, being the bigger person, and all it did was really didn't benefit me at all. So we wasted all this money with all these motions and filing. I felt like I came through with a good case, basically showing the stability we had here with schooling, so forth. Led some coaches. He was very athletic and always was kind of competitively involved in something. And, I felt like he was always on a good track. But then mother would always say, well, these are your dreams and this is what you're thinking. But in reality, it wasn't me. I just felt like I'd worked with him so long that I could see what was kind of like building him confidence and really motivating him, So, but that was when the alienation really started, because I didn't really see him from when he turned 13 till he turned 14. So communication was very limited. I would get a lot of the hate messages, because during this time, obviously we were going to court. So I don't know what was being said over there, but the mom would always say, I wouldn't say nothing. I want you guys to have a good relationship, but I just saw otherwise. The distance really started there. Now he's 16 years old, and, I don't get a message from him. They both have blocked me. His mother, maybe rightfully so, with certain things I say, not super aggressive, but everything she feels is aggressive. I can't even speak on like what I think is best, because she feels that I'm just being controlling or I'm being aggressive with this. So, I have no way. I email her to find out what's going on, because I noticed grades have dropped tremendously since he started high school, and takes like days or sometimes weeks or multiple emails to ever get a response. As far as him, he randomly blocked me in October of 2024 after I had flown down there to watch him play varsity football as a freshman. And I thought everything was fine, but I hadn't really seen him for a while. So, it wasn't like super warming, but we spent time. I love him more than anything. And I just feel like I could see him telling me things that he thinks I wanted to hear, to kind of for me to keep calm and to really stop fighting. I felt like, if that makes sense. They kind of like wanted to wither me down over time. So it was just extremely challenging until today. I don't have any way to contact him. I'm in contact with the school where they signed him up without even my notice. I had to really do my research, and I flew down there with my documentation, because I still have the legal rights, but I ended up signing out of country visitation. And then what she did was she sent him to live with her older son, who's almost 30 years old. So basically there's no parent there raising him other than her other son, who's actually been really good to me lately. Like, I reached out to him. I didn't know if we had any friction, and he's just been talking to me saying he feels that I should be involved with certain things. But I just feel like the opportunities here were much better for him to prepare him for college. And just like, even at the level of competitiveness, which seems to give him a lot of drive and probably feel good about himself, because this kid has been being pulled in all different directions for many years now, but we don't even speak at this point. So I feel like it's to the most extreme. You know, I randomly get a text like, I miss you and I love you so much or whatever. But I'm thinking like if somebody misses and loves me so much, but they don't pick up the phone on my birthday to wish me happy birthday or to wish me Merry Christmas, I don't understand those type of things.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's a loyalty conflict with him, right? So he loves you. He's reaching out, but he's also aligned with the alienating mom because that's where he resides for the most part, other than being with the brother, because that's what he hears everything she says every day. And to your point, she started brainwashing him and manipulating him at a young age. So his experience with you is one of love, but what he hears is different, but it begins to become reality for him, right?
Yeah.
Which is heartbreaking and which is part of that psychological abuse because it erases all the good memories. So let me ask you, what is the relationship like with her other three children and their fathers? What relationship was that like?
I mean, to be honest with you, I noticed the pattern that there's no relationship with any of the fathers.
Yeah.
And she does have a daughter who has, I believe, 4 or 5 children now. Amazing mother, put her own self through college. You know, they probably have a good relationship. I remember it was strained for quite some time. But for some reason, the boys are the ones that are more latching to her, you know, because you got to understand, she lives all the way in Mexico, on the furthest point of Mexico, obviously near kind of like Miami. And one of the older sons moved there when she moved there and just really hasn't like detached from that and has to be close to his mom. And the other one was left and it's rebuilt his relationship with his father. But other than that, you know, you kind of could see just like that the boys are kind of more needy to the mom and then the daughter's not. And she's kind of like moved forward in her life and her life choices as far as schooling and everything. But you really just try to guide your children the best you can. But I see the way that my family is just extremely alienated. Like I feel bad for my sister, which is my only sister and his only aunt who has a child the same age as my son who grew up with our son. And, you know, she'll text him. He won't even respond. Just leave it at that. It's sad because she didn't do anything. And that's hurtful to see, you know, as far as that.
Yeah, the alienation doesn't just affect the targeted parent. Their goal is to separate that child from anybody who would have a positive influence and sway that child's decision to want to be part of the targeted parent's life, you in this case, right? So if your sister reaches out or her child reaches out and he responds to that, then he feels like he's betraying his mother's trust. And she doesn't want that because then she's going to fear that he's going to be reminded of the good experiences that you all have had together.
Yeah, I do agree with that very much, you know. But, you know, for a lot of years, I said, he's just a child. He's just a child. But he knows what's right and wrong. So I don't know how he departmentalizes just not talking to his father. It's like weird to me because, you know, when I look at him, of course, I see a teenage boy. But mentally, I remember like when he was a little bit young and, you know, it was like, oh, Daddy, you're going to get home from work. We're going to have dinner. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to cuddle. We're going to do all these things. But and then now it's just like I'm just non-existent, which causes a tremendous amount of like PTSD. You know, it's extensive amount of like therapy, you know, to deal with certain things because you don't really know what's going on. And you worry about your child and you worry like what's going on. Like, is he using drugs? I don't know you know what I mean? Like, is he okay? Does he need me? I don't even know if he would even feel comfortable reaching out to me if he needs help. This is the part that, you know, is the most affecting, like, especially for a father or just a man trying to be a strong pillar in a young man's foundation to help him grow to be a man. Now, his brother, you know, on the one hand, has always had a good head on his shoulder, but he doesn't have a child. He doesn't know the experience we go through. He just knows the story of what the mom has said.
Of course.
You know, or he feels that maybe I messed up the relationship between him and his father, you know, but he doesn't know the whole story about how everything and whatever transpired over the years, you know, or what was said. That's what I just...
He hears her story. That's all he hears, right? And so to go back to your comment about your son, you have to remember, as hard as it is, that he only hears what she says as well. So he remembers being a child and good experiences, but she's then implanting memories about what she believes happened that probably didn't happen. So he loves you and he knows he has a relationship, but now she's telling him things about you that most likely are untrue. So he has that conflict. Like, I didn't see that part of my dad, but why would my mom lie to me? So it must be true, right?
Yeah.
which is traumatizing. I mean, how heartbreaking for him that his relationship with you was so strong and so great. And now as he's maturing and his brain is starting to grow and retain, he's hearing these things about you, and it puts a little bit of fear on him as well. So then he feels like, well, my dad's already abandoned me based on what my mom said, and I can't go against my mom, even if I do have good memories with my dad, because then who will I have? Right? He might have his siblings, but it's different than a parent.
Yeah. And, a lot of parents that I talk with and I'm close friends with, we obviously, they have sons like the same age. And, some of them can't even realize like to even deal with things like this, or to even just like fathom like this. We talk about like, imagine if your son just, you never speak with him, or he has you blocked. For example, I've asked his mother numerous times when she claims that she wants us to rebuild from a place of love and all this stuff that she believes in. And I'm just like, well, you control the phone. You pay for the phone bill. Like what you can tell him he not to have his father blocked. But then she also has me blocked. So it's kind of like, you just, I take things with a grain of salt. I know just not to believe certain things that are said, but I do feel that when he realizes, either manipulation or opportunities that were lost, that this could have a further long-term effect for him. You know what I'm saying? It could turn into his 20s where he's like, I should have listened to my dad. Like, for instance, this is a good example. He played on a competitive travel football team at 14. So we prepared to go to one of the top football schools in the country here in Las Vegas, Nevada. He tested everything. We were prepared to go and send him to school there. Then he leaves for Thanksgiving in November, never to be seen again. So the school was just kind of like a little disappointed because we went through the whole interview process, getting prepared to take a test. And she didn't even have the nerve to send him down here to get him tested. So he missed that opportunity right away. Then he's gone. They don't tell me anything about school. But this is where I thought it got odd because, all of a sudden it was like, oh, these are your dreams. This is what you want. But then he wants to compete and still play the same sport. He's always competed. I was like, once they started asking me for like the equipment and stuff like this, and I'm just like, well, I thought this was my dream. And it just, none of it really made sense. It was always like bad mouthing things that I, thought I was doing right for him as far as like the training, just all the money invested in this and that, but I saw the difference because I saw the change, like even in pictures I sent where, he went from, he grew like maybe 4 or 5 inches within a year, but then they, allowed him to express himself, which I really wouldn't agree with, like painting half of your hair pink and it's half, black. And it just this really goth look. I mean, I don't know, I think had he been here, maybe it would have been a little different. The guidance would have been different, but I wouldn't have just let him do whatever he wants to do. Like I would have tried my best to kind of guide in a direction, and then he just grew out of that. And now he's developing, but I feel like I don't even know my own son anymore. Like I don't know who he is or who he's become now, but I do know is that, he has his own little manipulation because I've seen it over the years. I've seen it in, over many years now, feeling like they tell me what I want to hear to keep me at bay or possibly to a point to just give up fully, but he's always welcome to come back. I leave messages because I'm blocked and it goes straight to voicemail. I don't even know if he listens to them. But I hope that he does. And I hope that, that he tries to at least, have a relationship, because you just never know in life, how much time we have or unexpected things that could happen. And then you're going to feel even worse that these, that you can't really get back the time that was gone. That's a difficult part to deal with.
So legally you've got to give up, right? I mean, what you find in a lot of these cases is once they turn 14, the courts say, well, we let the child decide, right? And now he's 16. So, and he's in Mexico. So where are you?
He's not in Mexico. Sorry about that. That's the confusing part. Yeah. His brother lives in San Jose, California.
Oh, okay.
So he's in San Jose, California.
Okay.
He's still in California. He wouldn't be playing any sports in Mexico, on top of that. Yeah. So he's in California.
Okay. So legally, where are you with this? I know you've spent over $30,000 already.
Yeah. I spoke with another attorney that's a client that I've known, a close friend of mine. She went to Santa Clara University and she studies family law here. She basically said that I pretty much almost exhausted everything because even though I have my rights for visitation, nobody could force them to get on the plane to come visit.
Wow.
By the time I would have refiled again, it's going to push back like to a year before they even do like one of those interviews in the family court. So, and then he's going to be 16 and a half, 17 years old. And then what's going on, he's going to be 19 when he graduates versus 18 only because of the COVID year. So, and this was a year that he went to Mexico between 12 and 13, which caused him to be behind, and he wasn't even doing school. Like, he was in online school out there through Nevada, but they wouldn't even have him do any school. So he basically failed. And, it did help his development, to kind of mature quicker. But, I've exhausted like the legal path, which I felt was extremely biased in general, because they held me to a text message with me and the mom, obviously going back and forth, saying that I said he could try school in Mexico. And that's what really screwed me, like in the long run. It was like a text message, where you could, I just didn't think like something like that would even be,
Used against
as,
you.
yeah, it's used against me. But even like, it was night and day. Like, I provided the grades and what he was doing and what he's not doing. I provided the pictures of where he was at, even letters from like people at school. Like, those people have nothing to gain. You know what I mean? Like, coaches don't have anything to gain. If they see potential in your child, they're going to do whatever they can to kind of help develop whatever, whatever route they want to go. But they really don't care the best interest of the child. I mean, honestly, is from what I've seen, it's not really the best interest. It's really just who can endure the financial aspect of it, how long you can go and how much you could fight, because nothing will really get done until you kind of just give up, And the only reason I had signed to give up, because me and her had verbally agreed to send him back for his 8th grade year. So we were getting things on track, but I don't know what was being said, because he's obviously, at that time, he was already 14 years old, 15 within the year. I saw him develop a lot, but it could have been a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
Could have been a lot of pressure for him, and your mental health is extremely important. But I don't know, like, I didn't see the friction between us, other than maybe I was a little hard on him with certain things, or I expected him to do things. But when I look back, all the goals that he set for himself and he was achieving, he would write them and check them down. I could see his confidence like building, you know what I mean? Because he went through an awkward stage with the hair, with the body, with the size. And then he put on like all this muscle within a year. And I could see it like driving him a little bit, maybe he just wanted girls to look at him and say, I don't know. You know what I mean? It could have been a lot of things behind it, but I just kind of rode with what I felt was good for him. And then now it's like, at least I'm happy to see him still doing things, on the athletic side of it. But the grades have plummeted. He went from being a 3.5 student to being like a 2.4 student right now. And it's like, I don't understand, how this even happens. It's just really lack of accountability and just effort overall, because he's a smart kid. He's showing up late to class all the time. And I talked to the principal, which, was really open with me. He just wants to talk to girls all day at school or whatever in between classes. But it's like not even, it's kind of like not even normal to have all these lates, because they give you like 5 minutes between class to go from one class to another in high school, and they sent him to some school that I would have never have sent him to. I mean, I'm not totally against the public school system, because he does live in a nice area in San Jose, but I would have not chosen that school out of the surrounding schools that were maybe private to go to, or to even compete at the level that I feel that he can. So this is a combination of things that we just are not seeing eye to eye,
So he primarily resides with his older brother now.
Yes, correct. Yes.
And he seems to be open to your communication.
The older brother, yes. I mean, I've always in that this brother have always got along the most, because he was an extremely athletic kid. He was a 4.0 student. When we moved here, I wanted him to come here with us and to compete out here in Las Vegas, which he went against it. And then his path just went a different way. He ended up getting injured at playing college football. But, I don't know. I thought there was somewhere along the line that we kind of were not cool anymore, even though I was sending pictures of like Romeo's games or just like whatever it may be, sharing these things. And, but his brother would tell him, certain things, just like, oh, it's not all about like the sports, which I understand. It's not all about the sports, but I feel like sometimes the sports leads into like keeping you from like off the streets, or keeping you from doing things that you shouldn't be doing, or putting you in positions that, that you shouldn't be in, because sometimes it's dangerous. Certain places you get kids that get, shot by random bullets all the time, or I just really wanted him around kids that were motivated to go to college, to better themselves, and just kind of just have that competitive edge to just, set some goals and move forward. I felt like that was like my parenting aspect of it, because, I was 29 when he was born. I don't know what, I didn't even expect it. It was really like not even planned. So I'm like, well, what can I do? How can I be the best father? But yeah. And this all happened soon.
So you said
brother,
you started to notice that he was being manipulated to turn against you, even when you were spending time with him. What were some things you noticed that made you think, oh, something's going on, or she's telling him stuff?
Just secretive. I noticed like secretive things. I would notice that he would kind of go to the room. He wouldn't want to talk around me, and I wasn't like going through the phone really. I didn't like go and like, these type of things, go through the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop on his conversations, but I noticed it was every day, even though the mom's gone. So every day he's hearing from her, at least a text message or whatever it may be. And I just started noticing these type of things. If I look back, I'm thinking like maybe I should have kind of looked through things or whatever, but I didn't. You know what I mean? It even came to the point where like the social media stuff, like I didn't agree for him to have social media at a really young age. You know what I mean? Because then you see things they're posting, and it could be like, rappers or whoever that they follow who are no longer with us or who overdose on drugs or whatever it may be. And you see them really posting dark things. And I'm just like, who even allowed this? Because I wouldn't allow these things. You know what I mean? I would at least try to guide it. But, you don't know who's writing them on these, platforms. And so like, I think like us not seeing eye to eye as parents or having different views as far as like life or what, development of this child is what affected a lot too. I always hoped that we got on the same page and that she allowed me to, to help him as much as possible and put him in positions for success and happiness. But on the other end, it's like your dad's just a controlling person and, he wants to control everything, which is not even true. I truly just want the best for him, and to be happy in life and, be a good person and a good man as he gets older. And he's going to realize when he has a family later in life, hopefully, he has it with somebody that he wants to have a child with and that, that he loves very much and they work as a unit, two parents together. Because when the parents, have these different views, it's a tremendous amount of stress on the child.
Yeah, especially when you're separated by distance as well, right? So that certainly didn't help the situation one bit. So what are your next steps? I mean, how do you anticipate trying to continue to rebuild that relationship or have him want to spend time with you? I mean, it's so challenging and it's so devastating. What are you thinking for next steps?
Well, since when I first guys wrote you the story, I had reached out to the brother maybe like 2 weeks ago. So he was really responsive. He felt that I should know kind of what's going on. And he told me to text if I have any specific questions. I text specific questions, which he wasn't really responding to those. So I just kind of sit and wait. And I don't want to, God forbid, like he blocks me, but I don't say anything. I just say like, okay, well, what's your guys' next move? You guys have a plan? Like what's going on? How you going to finish the year? I was hoping that he would come back after his first semester, but I always hope that he comes back. I hope I get a call that he's like, yeah, I don't want to come back. I miss you. I love you. And I'll just probably waiting for that for some time. But, I just keep on doing therapy. A big part of it was I did therapy with our therapist here together with him. And then therapist reached out to mom. Mom declined, saying that he doesn't want to do the therapy. But I felt like mom always gave him a lot of control over things that were adult decisions. Do you know what I'm saying? So it kind of was like he should at least do a phone call, or numerous times the therapist is like Bobby doesn't have to be on the call. Like we'll do it together. You're on the phone, Romeo's on the phone, I'm on the phone. He could see what was going on. Like, right. He's, he has a PhD in this type of things. And, I really have a lot of respect for him. He sees what's going on. And, he tells me like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't know how you deal with this. Like, that you're really focused moving your life forward. I'm in sales for a living. It's difficult because you go and you put a smile on your face and you try to, keep things going, but you also have this side of you that's super empty that, you feel like just crying, or you feel like this overwhelming of emotion because you're missing something, but this is just life and you move forward and you try to kind of like heal from that. Yeah. So I would like, hopefully to eventually just speak with him, and spend time with him, and just do fun things, see what happens. But like I said, it's like I feel like I don't even know him anymore. And, his life is kind of moving in whatever direction it's going with really no path at this point.
So that's interesting that you came across a therapist or a psychiatrist, psychologist that early on recognized.
Oh, I had two different ones.
Two.
Oh, so one because I did one with the mom. Like I did couples therapy with the mom, trying to see what's going on. And I was with the first one for many years. She originally was my therapist. Then I brought mom in, and then mom took her over because that's how mom is. And then mom wanted to start seeing her by herself. And this is just how things work. And I'm still good with that therapist. I'll text her and, show her pictures of Romeo's development. I mean, she worked with us since probably Romeo was 14. He was probably about 4 years old. Yeah. it was many years of this, many years of just trying and trying and, trying to put that square through a circle. And it was just like, it wasn't really beneficial,
Yeah.
you know?
So when you think about the alienating behaviors of the mom, like some things that she's done, like say bad things about you or keep secrets, what are some examples of what you recognize from her that made you realize that she was trying to turn him against you, which ultimately sounds like it worked?
Yeah. So I can't ever confirm like her saying bad things because she swears that she doesn't say bad things. I
Yeah.
think it was more of like, pointing out small things, maybe if I yelled, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't like hitting. I'm not saying that I never not once, smacked my son or disciplined him, but for her to make it seem like I was this aggressive, abusive person started like at a young age. You know what I'm saying? Instilled the fear. And that's what I noticed on some of your videos, with like fear. And I didn't realize that, because he was always like rebellious, and a lot of the anger was coming because he didn't have that nurturing mom there being that mother. And I have text messages from when he was young because I provided a lot of stuff. Like I was really good at like doing pictures and keeping videos and keeping text messages, where she even wrote him when he was a child, like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not the best mother, or I'm not the mother that you want me to be. Like, I just noticed these things and I'm just like, well, who says this to like a child that's like 5, 6, 7, 8? You know what I mean? I'm just like, or when she's traveling, let's just say she's in Europe or wherever she may be. And, our son was trying to call her and she wouldn't answer the phone. And he'll be like, oh, if you don't answer, I'm going to hurt myself. Or he would say these random things that I just was just like, what's going on, But I knew what was going on. I knew it was because he wanted his mother to be a traditional mother. And that's just not what was in the books at that time. Obviously, it was her fourth child. It was, and, she would try to manipulate me, but I saw through it. But like, I wanted to be there for my son. So I'm like, great, this is what it is, Yeah. And on the financial side of it, she would pay like for a lot of the daycare stuff because I still had to work and make a living. I wasn't like a daddy daycare at home, I still had to provide. And, it was always like a stressful thing between that, with the financial side of things because, she always felt like she was giving more, but like I was like, the time is what you're never going to get back. You know what I mean? And even till this day. So she has the physical custody of him and doesn't even have the physical custody, if that makes sense. Like she deferred it to somebody else,
Yeah.
who's speaking on his behalf, but is not even legally speaking on the behalf. He's not in any court paperwork or court documents. So these things are just ones that like, it's very difficult to understand because, I'm going to place my phone up. My watch keeps going off. My apologies. It's not even, it's very difficult because he doesn't have these rights and he's doing the best he can. So I applaud him for that because, he, who at this age, who doesn't have their own child, is trying to raise a teenager, but also still trying to be the friend and is the brother. It's just like, those are kind of murky waters right there. And, but they do, they do things, they work out together. They go to a lot of these NFL games to watch the 49ers play. They do a lot of things that are like, like bros and friends and they're brothers. And this is good. This is a good thing, but it's still, you could see where the lack of parenting is affecting him as far as the schooling and as far as making good decisions or as far as seeing like what's best for him. Because two parents are not seeing the same vision of what's best for them. And it's really a gamble because you're not going to see the effects of that until adulthood, until it's probably too late.
Of course. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, you have a father, a loving father who's willing to raise his son and a mother who has taken him away from you and he's not even parenting him and is basically giving him away to her son.
Yeah.
I just don't, it continues to just blow my mind that the legal system thinks this is okay. Like,
oh, yeah, there's nothing you can really do,
no,
and
of course not. And they wash their hands a bit, especially, I mean, your son's 16 now. They're not going to get in the middle of it.
No, it's very difficult. It's almost like I just hope that he just realizes one day, like, oh, maybe I should come back to Vegas where things were a little bit different, or I could try to achieve these things because even where he's at right now, he went from playing like on these teams that never lost games to now not winning a game at all and still saying you're able to play varsity as a freshman, but they won nothing, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, like I wouldn't want to go to school every day or in the same town or somebody and you play for a team that's like the Bad News Bears. I mean, I just wouldn't want my even son to endure something like this. So that's the hard part, like he's our child, but it's the mom always uses the easier way out like this, and it's the way the condescending tone that she even speaks in messages. Like if I was sending these messages, you would see right through it because everybody can, it's like, I hope my message finds you with so much love, the universe this, and, it's just like, and that's okay to believe the things that you believe in, I mean, I'm okay with that, but it's just like, I don't understand these things, and she's remarried now, and she's remarried to somebody, probably a little bit younger. He's probably as old as I am, but, has no children. So they could live a life of traveling, or the bohemian life and the yogi life, because they're yogis and they do yoga every day, and whatever they do, that's okay. But there's been times where our son got in altercations physically with him. So it's like all this stuff and nobody does anything or says anything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Where Romeo's like punched him or choked him out or whatever it may be. Yeah, like, he's a big kid. He's like probably 5'11", 185 pounds. He's strong because he's worked really hard to get to this point. But it's kind of like, these are things that aren't okay. Like, what leads up to this,
Right.
And he's not fighting in school, but I'm thankful. Yeah, I'm thankful he's not fighting in school.
Yeah. That's probably his escape, right? I mean, it's his escape is to be at school and to play sports. But he's got to have some trauma. He lost his father, basically, right? And his mom's gone away. I mean, she's not living with him. Yeah. She's remarried, and he's got to have some feelings of abandonment. And it's not even, it's his reality, right? Because that's where he's at, but it could be different. And it's not, because she's not allowed for that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's nothing I could really do as far as the legal side. I've exhausted that. I've really given up on that part, because that part is just a never ending money pit that, if you can't keep, fighting, then you're kind of just like kind of screwed with it,
So it sounds like he has some opportunity with the brother. I mean, that's really encouraging though. And there's a lot of lost time to be made up for sure. But it sounds like if you can get the brother to see the value you play in your son's life, that might be an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm hoping, but like I said, also, two different people have two different views, and, his brother could see, him out there. And I thought it was odd that they sent him to the school that his brother competed at, when they had all these other options. I thought that was, but I felt like they did the easy thing because the area the brother lives in, the school's not far from there, versus having to send him to a better school. It's going to cost money to go to, that's something that I thought, that I considered. I don't know. I even said that if she sends him back, don't worry about the cost of the private school here, that I'll take care of that. I'll get him scholarship, whatever it may be. Don't worry about that, because I see the value. And the school that he was supposed to attend here also, he's eligible to transfer as a sophomore as long as he gets a certain GPA, which I still think it would be best for him to at least come and compete here for 3 more years and be around similar kids than where he's at right now. But, nobody's even taken like advantage of that, or even, I thought it was random, like coaches that, whose kids play at the highest level, in college, and have reached out to him, that he's always suspected, but he's not responsive. So like, he's not even writing like anybody back. And that doesn't, I don't understand why, he respected these trainers and coaches. They just are checking up on him. They're not really speaking on my behalf, but they want to know what's going on with him. Is Roman going to come back? Is he not? Like, what's going on? Is he okay? And it's just, like everybody here in Las Vegas, where he's pretty much been raised all his life, is just non-existent.
He's had to completely erase that part of his past because, again, her goal was to erase that. And it's working, right? Because then it's that loyalty conflict. Well, if I talk with them, then I'm betraying her because she doesn't want me to do that. Yeah. So he's stuck, he's stuck in a spot where he can't go back to that because that wasn't a good part of his life compared to, and based on what she's told him.
Yeah.
Which is so tragic. And you're right. As we come close to an end here, you're right that this is all going to come full circle for him. And the hope is that when he turns 18 or 19 and when he graduates and he starts to realize what happened, that he'll say, wow, this is what the reality is. And I want to have a relationship with my dad. Hopefully that happens way sooner than after graduation. And that's obviously the hope for you. And we're such a positive role. And you parented him and you were a primary caregiver, and it just easily taken away and no consequences, just completely violation of the court order and 0 consequences.
Oh yeah, there's nobody to follow those things. They don't, if I can give
but
anybody.
It goes the other way around. If you had that,
Yeah, I know. I know. It would
Right?
have probably been harder on me, but
Yeah.
life is, hopefully I just keep praying and keep positive that a miracle will happen, and we could
Yeah.
just pick up where we left off. I don't want to hold on to, the sadness or anger or frustration,
Yeah.
and just move forward, and I've said that before. Just come
Yeah.
back and we could forward on, moving forward, and we could do like some therapy together. He could talk,
Yeah.
on the things that bother him about my style. Um, because I know he wants to do whatever he wants to do. That's the thing, even if it's
As a
not best for
teenager.
him. Yeah,
As
that's the
a
hard part.
teenager.
You know what I
Right?
mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we're wrapping up. Any final thoughts that you want to share with our viewers and our listeners? I mean, you sound like you really have a strong investment in your son. You sound like an amazing parent based on our conversation. And then you really want what's best for him, which is what all parents want for their children. Any final thoughts?
I mean, just for any other parent, whether it's a father or a mother, just try to stay positive, and don't allow the other parent to emotionally abuse you, to mentally abuse you, to really focus on tearing you down, because it's the time that they do it, and then you start doubting yourself till you just give up. Even though that you're coming from a good place and your best interest, just focus on keep fighting. And I wish I would have known this earlier, and now
Sure.
not too late, basically. You know what I mean? I would have fought
Yeah.
harder and went to court right away when she was traveling and he was 4, 5, 6, gone 30 days at a time. And if I had to get dirty and play dirty, I would have probably done it within the law, because that's just what it is. You know what I mean? Because I try to play nice, and nice guys finish last, unfortunately, in the system of the law.
Bobby, thank you so much for joining the Fractured Families podcast. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fractured Families podcast. I hope our conversation has provided you with support, understanding, and actionable insights to help you navigate your own family challenges. Remember, healing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more families in need. You can contact me on social media at Parental Alienation is Real, and visit our website for additional resources and ways to get involved. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep fighting for the family bonds that matter most. Until next time, take care and stay resilient.